Uh, um, I, I'm going to introduce you first in Spanish for our students, and then in English. So then we are going to start with the questions. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Voy a empezar a grabar yo también por aquí. Vamos a ver.
Mauricio.
Sí, ya te las paso.
Gracias.
Vamos a empezar aquí a grabar. Okay. Hola familia, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo les va? Les habla Mauricio Ramírez, nuevamente muy feliz de estar por acá en este espacio de Raíces, que es de todos y todas ustedes, en estos espacios de reflexión constante sobre el mundo, sobre la situación del país, qué es lo que está pasando, qué es lo que viene, qué podremos ver en el escenario internacional, qué sucede con la geopolítica y demás. Hoy tenemos otro gran invitado de honor y muy especial, que es el profesor ruso, filósofo y geopolítico experto Leonid Savin, que nos conversará sobre temas de cibergeopolítica. Desde Rusia nos acompaña el día de hoy. También estamos aquí compartiendo con el profesor, investigador y académico Bryan Acuña, de la Universidad Internacional de las Américas, que es licenciado en Relaciones Internacionales, con énfasis en comercio exterior. Y el otro compañero también docente, Andrés Zamora, licenciado en Relaciones Internacionales con énfasis en Diplomacia y Política Internacional. Así que estamos muy contentos de compartir este día con todos ustedes y con el profesor Savin. Professor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for staying here with us. And let's start, okay?
Thank you for opportunity. Okay, I am ready. We can start. It's my pleasure to be with you and to share my knowledge, my skills with you.
Thank you so much. Professor, considering that we are talking about non-physical space, what does the cyber geopolitics consist of, and how can we regulate the relations between the actors of the international system on this virtual space? What is cyber geopolitics?
From my opinion, my own concept of cyber geopolitics, it's an umbrella concept. This neologism must be understood at the same time as new discipline that studies what happens using human-machine interface in the context of politics and geography, included but not limited to the interaction of social networks, virtual space, and web diplomacy too. Of course, current activities that affect and include the principle of feedback in the social, political, and military sectors, and where the imperative of is to establish and disseminate power, albeit in more sophisticated ways than before. My vision of cyber geopolitics, it maybe seems a little bit more complex, more deep than some operative doctrines of United States and some other countries in military or political sectors. From my opinion, we should just to check ideas of cybernetics of Norbert Wiener, but it's just science of feedback and command and control. But if we just turn more deep to history, we will see that the term kybernetiki was used by Plato in one of his books. And even if you check the term, etymology of the term of governance, just on Wikipedia, for example, you will see that the word governance derives from the Greek verb Kubernetes. That's the same. It's Plato talked about it, but kybernetiki, it means a ruler and leader of the state. So when we speak about cyberspace, we should keep in mind that it's about state activity. It's not only some kind of specific or unlimited space and some kind ideas of libertarians for new unlimited place for interactions. We should remember that it's kind of a new type of geography. And yes, there is difference from traditional geopolitics. For example, there is land power, there is sea power, there is air power, there is space power. It's all of natural elements. But cyberspace, it's artificial construct. It's built by people, by ourselves. So we see it like we do it. So it's a principal difference of the cyber geopolitics of cyberspace from the traditional spaces and traditional geopolitics. And in cyber geopolitics, physical space adopted in very specific way via GPS, application, social nets, etc. Even Henry Kissinger told that internet is kind of very serious challenge to whole historical experience, and I am agree with him. And next level of cyber geopolitics is international relation and diplomacy. And we see such new term like electronic diplomacy or Twitter diplomacy. United States try to open virtual embassies over the globe, and we see very different types of ideologies dealing with cyberspace. For example, netism and adepts of this ideology told that we are all netizens and states not deal like before, and we should to build very own types of communications. There's ideas of net utopia, for example, it is mostly libertarian idea for internet. There's idea of connectivism and the idea of electronic frontier, and some proponents of this new types of ideologies thought that information society is liberal, hyper exchange society, and citizen transmits, resides, and transmits streams of ideas and opinions. One of the proponents, Paul Starr, for example, that cyberspace is the most singular product of political invention and social construct. And in extreme, we have three types of ideologies: cyber libertarian ideology, cyber liberalism, and cyber realism. And realism is very close to political realism, and the main idea is what is cyberspace exactly, and it should be controlled by state, and all there should be kind of anarchy, and there is the rise idea of nomos of cyberspace, that some responsible states or international governance should to control this space, and we see there is debate in the United Nations about how to govern internet space. The idea of multi-stakeholderism, the idea that some companies, private companies, also should take part of responsibility to govern internet. But from my opinion, it's just kind of idea that state will be behind of such kind of companies, because most of companies are from United States, and Twitter, Amazon, and Google, and so on, and Facebook, for example. It is just another kind of tool of influence. So it's very complex idea of cyber geopolitics, and of course it's open for discussion, for debates, and still there are no any rules, no any laws for cyberspace, even for cyber conflicts. For example, famous Tallinn manual is just proposal of ideas. It's not necessary for application. But it's a point of view from Western world, mostly written by American scholars.
Okay, thank you. I think that it's very important to see some points that you said, for example, how to think the cyberspace since the different kind of ideologies. I think it's very interesting and very important. And in all the world, but especially in Western countries, the different kind of interest that play this in some way they're in the cyberspace and look for some specific objectives. And that is why it's a very different kind of geography from the physical. But it's the reason why it's important to study in the international relations and in geopolitics as a new space for this specific topic, this specific theme. Andrés.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor, for your answer. Trying to follow the line you were talking about. What are the main challenges and threats to relations between states that the cyber geopolitics model suggests?
First of all, as I already told, there is no law for cyberspace, so there is type of kind of anarchy, and many states and non-states actors try to be more influential than before. Second, for my opinion, is issue of history and identity. Because human nature is only historical networks between all animals in the world, and we rooted in our history. So now information may be distorted, falsified, or deleted in virtual space. And now we see that because user prefers to use electronic sources, like website outlets, for example, even new types of web libraries. So they're more easy just to do a kind of falsification of our history, to falsificate terms, to falsificate some political views and ideas, and even to falsificate historical documents. It's become more easy than before, and it's also very important. And some states try to use the internet like tool for own statist propaganda. For example, Israeli experience. In schools, during the class lessons, all pupils must to do kind of internet propaganda, to sit in forums, in Wikipedia, and to write very good articles about Zionism, about Israel, and so on, and to delete Palestinian propaganda. It's a kind of example of visualization how internet used for propaganda. Next level is
Doctor.
This is that the United States is very successful, and they showed many manuals for use cyberspace for military goals, and to use some types of cyber warfare, and to use artificial intellect for strategic decision. And in the last strategic idea of offensive character to use the cyberspace, and cyber commands already officially recognized that they conducted cyber attacks against Russian infrastructure. And American media also confirmed that United States used cyber attacks against Iran, for example, the very famous Zeus operation against the nuclear facilities in Iran. And there is also a problem of attribution. In real war, you see your enemy, you see the Iran.
Professor.
You see more, and you just fight with the enemy. Maybe from another side, they are good guys also. You can to sit in real life and to talk with him, to discuss, and you may be friendly. But in cyberspace, for example, you cannot do. It's very difficult to identify your enemy. They're very easy to conduct false flag operations against different countries. For example, it's very easy that agent of country A can go to country C and to start specific operation in cyberspace, just to claim that country B attacked country A. for some reasons. So it's also a problem. Next level hackers, because there are many zero-day exploits originally developed by private persons. There is hackathons, there are former hackers, there are many leaks of very dangerous programs that already use it for infrastructure of different states, and there is no state monopoly, so it's very difficult to control sharing and distribution of these dangerous applications. And for example, private collectives know think about collateral damage in response. Usually states only think about what another country will do in terms of conflict, and they think of collateral damage, and private collectives do not think in such way. So it's another challenge for cyberspace, but from other point of view, it's the reason for cooperation between different countries and between experts who deal with international relations and internet technologies.
Okay. Professor, we have another question that I'm sure you're going to expand our knowledge about that, is what are the effects of the cyber geopolitics on relations between the great powers, Russia, China, the United States? How does the virtual agenda affect the balances between these powerful countries and in the emerging or regional powers?
Of course, Russia, China, and the United States are a very important triangle in world system, and in all three countries mentioned, they attempt to build more sophisticated infrastructure of telecommunications and to use artificial intelligence for different means, for political means, for new industrial revolution. There is economic competition between all three countries, and not only for how to use cyber technologies for industry, but also for data analysis, for cryptography, for example, for client centricity, for development of cryptocurrency, and so on. And I think that China is the most successful. They developed 5G technology for the moment. United States tried to be second for the moment, and American military already established 5G technologies in few military bases across United States. And in Russia, we still not use this, but we will follow China. We have agreement with China. We will take some technologies from China. I am, for example, very critical about approach of Russian Federation, because I think that we should to develop our engineering and to produce our gadgets, and also to use our manpower for this type of cyber technologies. And of course, in questions of conflict between three countries, there are also kind of race in cyber technologies, especially for artificial intellect, artificial intelligence. And for my opinion, it's also a very dangerous trend because artificial intelligence itself is a very dark sphere, and we should be very careful about it. And for example, it's not all fears that we see in such movies like Terminator. It's just logical. For example, if two countries going to clash to each other, there is a human logic between. There is interaction between humans. For example, I can show this chart. There is human of country A, and there is humans of country B. Yes, so interaction coming between two entities, between two human entities, A and B. If we artificial intelligence, just in case if one country uses it. The story is more complicated. If both countries to use artificial intelligence, we see this. It's much more complicated for strategic and political decision in terms of military conflict or just for negotiation. So I see that in times of geopolitical rivalry and in times of geopolitical global turbulence, there is some dangerous trends coming because of new types of technologies. And it's also not about the decision-making process, but about rise of military robots, to use of space technologies, and so on.
Thank you, Professor. So let's talk about the COVID-19, the virus, the pandemic. So in this case, is the COVID-19 crisis and global transformations a new challenge for conflicts in Europe, Asia? How do you see the problem of the pandemic in Europe, Asia, and in the heartland between Europe and Russia?
Yes, from one point of view, it's a kind of risk, but from another point of view, it's a new opportunity. Because we can see three components. One is medical nationalism, second is remote economics, and the third is dissolution of supply chains. For medical nationalism, it's the idea that country and state is better because medical insurance and healing programs better than in other countries. So it's very good for image. And during the crisis of pandemic in Europe, we see that when different countries clash to each other, for example, in France, they confiscated some medical masks that Sweden sent to Italy, but Russia doing different strategy. Russia sent assistance to Italy with our military staff and to combat pandemic. Russia sent some humanitarian aid to United States and sent humanitarian aid to Serbia and some other countries. It's not only a Russian strategy, and some Cuban medics come to other countries just to help people. So it's good for positive image, and also it's good for national medical economics. Second is about remote process, because many people start to work at home. It's also kind of reality check how internet technologies works at home. We can to see how it works, to use applications, how it works for the money transfer, and etc. So it's also good. And third is good for Eurasia, because most supply chains before controlled by the West. Now we see the opportunity to establish new contacts with different countries. It's not only all partners, but it's opportunity to find new partners over the globe, in Latin American countries, in Africa, in Asia, and etc. And it's was kind of really good impact of digitalization, because borders closed, the noise of before, so we can to see and to rethink what happens, and we need to develop new strategy, global strategy.
Thank you so much, Professor. Trying to follow that line, and at the same time trying to mention one of your books. How can we classify the virus as a concept of caution and conflict?
Yes, it's. I think it's yes, it's part because coaching war is also my concept. Deal not only about military conflict. It's about wars by other means and about geopolitical competition. It's about political rivalry. It's about how you can to lose tactical battle, but you should to win strategic battle and to obtain victory. And virus and any kind of challenges is a good lesson for country, even if it happens in other regions just for many thousand kilometers far. You should to check what it happens. You should to analyze how to deal with it. And in this sense, different types of activities, not pandemic only, but any kind of human activities, any kind of natural disaster and technological disaster should be analyzed step by step and very carefully. Because, for example, for Russia, it's important because Russia is very large, very big countries. We have different types of climate zones, and Arctic zones, and tropical zones, and we have undeveloped lands on north, for example. We have big megapolises, and many types of challenges may be applicable for the Russia, for example. So idea of coaching conflict and coaching war is just to be prepared and be prepared theoretically, and just when you're ready, and you should to practice it, like to conduct kind of type of games, for example, and to conduct on practice. It's mostly about, of course, military operations, and then it's more easy to see it in face, any kind of danger and many kind of challenge.
Professor, in the same line that we are talking about the pandemic mixed with the cyber geopolitics that you talk in your books, how can affect in terms of war, geoeconomics and social engineering all the situation that we are living right now with the pandemic, mixed with all the strategy about the cyber geopolitics and another kind of politics that the countries are supporting right now in our world?
In terms of geoeconomics, the problem of last decades was superiority of the West, because there is dominance of American dollar, there is dominance of controls the money transfers, there is IMF, there is World Bank that used like kind of umbrella, and at the same time they use any type of punishment for poor countries. For example, if in United Nations some countries not vote like United States would like, so they not get loans from IMF. It was kind of standard practice. But some times ago, some years, the rise of new banks and Asian Development Bank and Eurasian Bank, so we have more alternative source for economic development. And I think it's very more important. It's we see the emergence of the economic multipolarity. Even ex-French President Sarkozy talked about rise of economical multipolarity. That he was not happy with the dominance of American dollar, and it's a very good trend for my opinion. And in the second question, sorry,
Professor.
You decide economics.
Hello.
Professor. Yeah, I think he's trying to understand the second part of the question.
Yes, there were two questions.
Yeah, the first was war, the other part was geoeconomics, and finally the social engineering.
Social engineering, yes. Social engineering, for my opinion, also very important during the time of electronic communications and new internet technologies. Because even in the United States, and I read every day some articles about what happens, new type of color revolution inside the United States, and some American media very disappointed how exactly American-made social nets just lead to this kind of disorder. Because during the last presidential elections, for example, Zuckerberg promised to organize Facebook in more sophisticated way, to be more private and to control and to avoid this kind of misconduct inside of the social net. But we see that still it's very useful for different leftist, anarchist, anti-fa groups inside of the United States. There is fake claims that Russia used our agents inside of the United States and so on. But in my opinion, when any kind of revolutionary groups or any kind of collectives just adopt these technologies for our means, they can use it everywhere. Not against Iran like it was during the second elections of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, during the so-called Green Revolution, and even not like in Moldova, there was attack in parliament and labeled it like Twitter revolutions more than 10 years ago. So they can use it inside of the United States. And the attempts of to use different mechanisms to control such kind of group and people, the new type of algorithms and new types of applications, also including artificial intelligence. But for my opinion, sometimes it's not useful. I mean, if the state would like to control all people and all citizens inside their own boundaries, it's very difficult because during our age, technologies developing of technologies more advanced than state try to use it, because state should to adopt legislation to discuss it, especially it's for democratic liberal societies like United States. And of course, they tried to use this idea and these tools in other regions and other countries. And we have seen such phenomena like Arab Spring and etc. They try to implement ideas through the social nets and communications, mostly liberal Western ideas, try to implement them into traditional societies in Arab world, in African countries, in Asian countries, in Russia also. But now we see that more destructive ideas just started to work inside of the United States. It's the idea that the state should be dissolved. It's the idea of open society of George Soros, and it's more dangerous ideas of transhumanism, for example, and etc. So there will be problem with Western developed societies, I think, and more traditional countries should care about how to control this situation. And mostly may be achieved through good education and preservation of our traditions and good skills of decision makers, and especially when politics and cyber technologies mix it together.
Yeah, definitely we are in a different world, more complex world, with new actors in the international system. Also, a different kind of war. The war is in a constant process of evolution, and everything is changing so fast. And this is part of the principal ideas of your new book, Professor, The New Art of War. Can you tell us about the most important idea that you want to share in that new book?
You mean coach and war? Yes.
Yes, yes, sir.
As I already told, the idea is to be advanced in few levels and few layers: human layer, physical layer, and technological layer. And because there awaits interaction between all three layers, and if you should and you want to achieve primary superiority, and it's not means you should to oppress other countries or other nations, just to be ready for different types of conflicts or different types of challenges. You should to be very open-minded from one side, and from other side, you should to keep very own strategic point of view. Maybe use a term like strategic inward strategic culture. John Snyder, for example, proposed the term of strategic culture during the Cold War era, and he told that the Soviet Union has very own strategic culture because habits, traditions, and because specific culture. United States have different strategic culture, but I think inward strategic culture is a more useful term because it's mean type of mentality of the people, a type of collective psychology. It's very complex patterns that used for centuries. Sometimes we not see it openly, but it's kind of subconscious. And when we act to each other, and when, for example, we act like Russians to Iranians, or like Russians to representative of Costa Rica, we should think about that. I mean that you should be like Iranian or like Costa Rican, not like Russian. And it's raise important questions of the cultural diplomacy, not type of standard bureaucratic diplomacy sector, but more a deep understanding of foreign culture, specific foreign culture. If you act to this area, for example, and so you have experience, so you have understanding how these people to see the world, and you can adopt this knowledge to own strategies, own technologies, and just to keep one more case in your how to say, in your strategic reserve. It's your should be kind of a strategic reserve of your state, your country, and your nation. It may be not used, for example, like in the sense of strategic deterrence between different countries when we try to use nuclear arms like arm of the fear. We not use it in real world, but it's kind of image of the country. So when you have many different cases in your own strategic reserve that may be used for different regions, for different problems, and for different challenges, you will have more superiority. This is my idea.
Yes, Professor. I would like to trying to rescue all the main ideas you shared to us. I would like to know, can you give us an scenario in 5 years on how cyber geopolitics can evolve in international politics? I mean, trying to rescue all the ideas, and well, we are in a pandemic scenario, so I would like to know how can evolve cyber geopolitics and the state's politics in general.
First of all, there will be debates inside the United Nations. What to do with cyberspace, how to share responsibility, about sovereignty inside of global cyberspace, because there is no borders. And I think that there is very interesting trend, because, for example, in traditional debates and conflicts, I mean some political conflicts, not military, we see that United States and there's liberal Western camp of different states, clients of United States, for example, and there's, for example, other states and groups who are rejecting American unipolarity. But in the case of debates about cyberspace and sovereignty and responsibility about cyberspace, we see that there is the same camp, for example, United States, but some classical satellites of United States in other camp with Russia, with China, I mean, for example, Saudi Arabia. And they are more interested to control internet space and to share standard political sovereignty on cyberspace. And I think it's a normal and good idea. It's idea of cyber realism. And also I am follower of this idea. Why should be kind of anarchy? Actually, it will be not anarchy. It will be attempt to establish pro-Western liberal order inside of cyberspace. And more countries should to unite this camp of cyber realism with China. China have found concept of great bad malware. They have a very specific approach for cyberspace with kind of filters, because if you inside of China, you cannot open many websites, classical and traditional, you can open in European countries. They filter information that come from outside to China. And I think other countries also should to, they have rights to control flows of information and come inside to the country. And because internet for many years used like kind of dark web for crimes, for illicit propaganda, etc. So next 5 years on the global level, there will be still debates about what to do with internet technologies, and I think that there anyway will be still two camps, and maybe even who will win next elections. There will be more understanding that internet is not kind of toy. May be useful for everyone, for different anarchist or anti-state groups. And maybe White House, if Trump will be elected, also will support the idea of China and Russia for the control of internet.
Thank you, Professor. We want to say thank you for your time. We hope to have to count with you in future talks. We appreciate your time and we hope to see you in Costa Rica soon. We wish to read your last book too, because it's very, very interesting, all the topics that you are talking about there. So again, thank you for all your time, and we want to count with you in future talks.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you. I am ready for different types of operations. And yes, exactly. My book in Spanish already published. It's available. Actually, I don't know how it's distributed, but translator told me that it's just going on. And some next books also in process, translated into Spanish language. I think it will be also useful in Costa Rica and in Latin America. And of course, we are also interested in your own ideas, how you see the world by your own eyes, and especially during the in times when world is going from unipolarity to multipolarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Professor. And I hope to see you soon here in Costa Rica.
Professor, thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. We are continue here reading your books. We have someone here that Ciber Geopolítica in Spanish. We have studied a lot this book, very interesting book. So thank you so much for your knowledge. We want to keep in contact to talk about all of these topics and many more that I know it will come.
And also say you thank you again for the contact with Dugin. Was a very, very interesting interview. So thank you very much for that contact. Was very, very amazing.
You're welcome.
Okay.
A great embrace.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor, for all the time you share with us, all the knowledge. For being honest, for me, the experience was so good because I'm trying to unify all the ideas you were talking about. It's very complex, but at the same time, it's better to understand a bit more how the politics and how the war is trying to function. Well, in actual times. So it's a very good exercise. Thank you again. I hope we meet soon in a new interview talking about new topics because the war is evolving so fast. And as you mentioned, I think we are in a transition between unipolarity for a new multipolarity because it's a new multipolarity, not the old. So I'm trying to rescue all these ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye.